We're going to talk about something called binomial distributions. So we talked before how there's many different probability distributions. So the ways that probabilities could be divided up amongst a bunch of outcomes. And there's going to be a special class of distribution called a binomial distribution. And if something is a binomial distribution, that means that we're going to be able to use some formulas to figure out probabilities a lot faster. So, what is a binomial distribution? So essentially there is three characteristics of a binomial distribution. So one, there has to be repeated trials. So there has to be trials that are repeated often. Two, there has to be two outcomes. And for a variety of reasons, we tend to name the outcomes success and failure. But for example, if the outcomes could be blue and green, and we might say that blue is a success and green is a failure. Or blue is a success and every other color is a failure. But essentially, if we could class all the outcomes into two groups, then that's one of the conditions to be a binomial distribution. And the trials are independent. And so that means that the probability is the same for every trial. The outcome of a previous trial has no effect on the outcome on the future trials. Okay, the next bit you don't have to write down, just watch this. It's not that important. So we're going to try to figure out, is this binomial? So what do we know? So first of all, trials. So what would be a trial here? So you draw 8 cards from a full deck. We're going to have, so a trial is going to be draw a card. And the number of trials here, and it's more than one hopefully, the number of trials is 8. So drawing a card is a trial, and we're going to have 8 trials. Now remember, we have two outcomes, and so in order to have two outcomes, we have to be able to describe something as a success. So what we're going to describe here is a heart. So hearts is a success, and the other outcome we should also be able to describe. And a failure would be not a heart. Okay, so we could divide this up into two outcomes, a heart and not a heart. And the last thing is are these trials independent? And the answer is, well, actually the answer is no. They are not independent. Because if we get a heart on the first card, we're less likely to get a heart on the second card. If we don't get a heart on the first card, we're more likely to get one. So therefore, since it's not independent, it is not binomial. No fun times. Okay. Let's do another example. Again, do not write this down. You have 9 nickels, 11 dimes, and 2 quarters in your pocket. You're going to draw a coin, mark down the value, so maybe like 10 cents, and replace it in your pocket. What is the probability that if you draw 7 coins, the total value will be between 45 cents and 55 cents? Okay, so are these independent? The answer is yeah. I mean, we take a coin and we put it back, so it doesn't change the probabilities at all. It's definitely independent. What would a trial be? A trial would be that we choose a coin and then put it back in our pocket. How many trials do we have? We're drawing 7 coins. So 7 trials. And success, what are we going to call a success? Well, it's a little unclear. If you get a dime, is that successful or is that not successful? If you get a quarter, is that successful or not successful? And so we don't really know for a given trial. So when we talk about success, we don't mean success overall for the whole thing. Success is just, we have to be able to divide the outcomes into two groups. One group that we're going to call success and one group that we're going to call failure. And we have to know how many successes we're going to want. But there's no way to tell from this how many we want. So therefore, it kind of fails over here. So it's not binomial either. Okay. Well, An egg has a 75% probability of being fresh. If you have 5 eggs, what's the probability that exactly 3 of them are fresh? Okay. So a trial would be that we check an egg. And the number of trials here are 5. And can we define a success and failure where we know how many successes we want? And it's always when we define success or failure, it's success is for 1 trial only. So we'll say success is egg is fresh. Egg is fresh. Egg is rotten. I guess the opposite, or not fresh. Probably not fresh would have been a better way of saying that. Is it independent? Well, every egg has a 75% probability of being fresh. If the first one is fresh, the second one has still a 75% probability. So it's independent. And so it meets all 3 criteria. Repeated trials, 2 outcomes, independent, and this is binomial. Now, why do we care if it's binomial? What we're going to do is we're going to try and make a formula out of it. We'll do it in the next video.